Welcome to Code Your English, and thank you for joining me today. I hope you're doing well, and if not, I hope this episode brings you a little bit of clarity, comfort, and calm. Take a deep breath, relax your shoulders, and give yourself a moment to simply be here. This podcast is your space to slow down, improve your English, and learn something meaningful at the same time. Today, we're talking about something we all deal with, no matter where we live, what job we have, or what language we speak. Stress. Stress is one of those experiences that feels incredibly personal, yet it's shared by almost everyone. It shows up in different forms, maybe in your work, your studies, your relationships, or even in your own expectations of yourself. And what makes stress tricky is that it doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it grows quietly in the background, day after day, until you suddenly realize you're overwhelmed, exhausted, or simply not yourself anymore. Many of us get used to feeling tense without even noticing it, the same way we get used to noise in a busy city. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's healthy. In this episode, I want to help you understand stress in a simple and practical way. I'm not here to give complicated theories or impossible advice. Instead, I want to talk to you honestly, like a friend or a mentor, and share ideas you can actually use in your daily life. My goal is not only to support your English learning, but also to guide you toward a calmer, more intentional way of living. And even if you've heard about stress before, I invite you to listen with fresh ears, because sometimes a small idea at the right moment can make a big difference. As you listen, you might recognize yourself in some of the stories or examples. You might even start thinking about your own habits, your own thoughts, or the way you deal with difficult days. That's completely normal, and it's actually a good sign. It means you're paying attention to your life, and that's the first step to changing it. I want you to walk away from this episode with a clearer mind, a lighter heart, and at least one practical technique you can start using today. So let's begin with a simple but powerful idea. If you don't manage stress, stress will manage you. This sentence might sound serious, and honestly, it is. But it's also empowering. It means you have more control over your life than you think. Stress doesn't have to dominate your day, shape your decisions, or steal your energy. You can learn to understand it, reduce it, and even prevent it before it grows too strong. And in the next part of this episode, we'll explore exactly how you can start doing that. What stress really is. Beyond the dictionary definition. When we talk about stress, most people imagine something negative, tension in the body, a busy mind, or the feeling that everything is too much. But before we go deeper, let's try to understand stress in simple, everyday language. Stress is basically your body and mind reacting to a challenge. It can be a physical challenge, like rushing to catch a bus, or an emotional challenge, like preparing for an important interview. Think of stress as your system waking up, paying attention, and getting ready to respond. In this way, stress is not always the enemy. Sometimes it's the thing that pushes you to move, think faster, or take action when you need it. There is a kind of stress that is actually useful. We call it good stress or healthy stress. This is the feeling you get before a presentation, before a new experience, or when you want to do well at something. It gives you a little boost of energy, a sharper focus, and a sense of motivation. For example, imagine you're studying and you suddenly remember that your exam is tomorrow. Your heart beats a little faster, your brain wakes up, and you start working more seriously. That is useful stress. It helps you perform better and stay alert. In small amounts, this type of stress is normal, natural, and part of growth. But then we have harmful stress, the kind that stays for too long, grows too heavy, and begins to affect your daily life. This stress doesn't help you. It drains you. It makes simple tasks feel difficult and normal days feel overwhelming. Harmful stress shows up when you're dealing with too many responsibilities at once, when you're afraid of failing, or when you keep carrying worries that have no solution. It's the kind of stress that doesn't push you forward, but pulls you down. Instead of giving you a short burst of energy, it slowly takes your energy away. That's when you start feeling tired, irritated, forgetful, or disconnected from yourself. To make this idea clearer, let me share a short personal example. A few months ago, I had a week where everything seemed to happen at the same time. Deadlines, unexpected work messages, family responsibilities, and even a small health issue that I kept ignoring. At first, the stress felt like pressure, a reminder that I needed to stay focused and organized. But by the third or fourth day, I noticed something different. I wasn't just working under pressure anymore. I was starting to panic. I felt like there wasn't enough time, not enough energy, and not enough space in my mind to think clearly. That's when I realized I had crossed the line. The stress that was supposed to help me became the stress that was slowly controlling me. And I'm sure you've experienced something similar, even if the situation was different. We often confuse those two feelings, pressure and panic, as if they were the same thing. But they are not. Pressure is like a gentle push on the back. It says, "Come on, you can do this." Panic is like someone grabbing your shoulders and shouting, "You're not ready! You're going to fail." One feeling moves you toward action, and the other freezes you in fear. Pressure is part of life, but panic is a warning sign that something needs to change. And this difference is important because understanding it helps you notice when stress is becoming dangerous. So let me ask you a question and really take a moment to think about it. Do you know the difference between pressure and panic in your own life? When do you feel motivated? And when do you feel overwhelmed? When does stress help you? And when does it start to hurt you? The more clearly you can answer these questions, the faster you can respond to stress before it becomes harmful. And that awareness, that honest observation of your own reactions, is the first step to taking back control. In the next part of this episode, we'll talk about the signs your body and mind give you when harmful stress is starting to grow, even if you try to ignore it. The hidden warning signs we often ignore. One of the biggest challenges with stress is that it doesn't always arrive suddenly. It often grows quietly, slowly, and almost secretly. And because we are busy or distracted or trying to appear strong, we miss the early signs. These signs are like small messages from your body and mind, but most of us ignore them until they become too loud to avoid. Understanding these warning signs is important because it helps you act before stress becomes overwhelming. Think of them as small red flags that appear long before the big problems show up. Emotionally, stress can change the way you feel without you even noticing the connection. You might become more irritable, the kind of irritability where even small things, like someone speaking too loudly or a message you don't want to answer, suddenly feel annoying. You may find yourself losing patience faster than usual, or becoming more sensitive to criticism. Sometimes you don't feel angry or sad, just off, like something inside you is tight or unsettled. You might also start overthinking, replaying conversations in your mind, imagining problems that haven't happened, or worrying about things you cannot control. These emotional signs are easy to ignore because they seem like normal mood changes, but they often appear long before you reach your limit. Stress also shows up in your body, and this is where many people misunderstand themselves. When you are under pressure for too long, your body reacts even if your mind tries to stay calm. Maybe you start waking up in the middle of the night, unable to fall back asleep. Maybe your shoulders feel tense, your stomach feels strange, or your breathing becomes more shallow. Some people feel tired even after a long night's sleep, like they are running on empty. Others wake up already stressed, as if their mind has been working all night. And because these signs are physical, people often think they are unrelated. But your body often speaks before your voice does. Then there are the behavioral signs, the changes in what you do or don't do. One common sign is procrastination, delaying tasks, avoiding responsibilities, or telling yourself, "I'll do it later," even when you know it might make things worse. Stress can also make you move through your day without energy, doing things automatically without really being present. Some people start working longer hours, burning the candle at both ends, trying to finish everything at once but ending up even more exhausted. Others isolate themselves, avoiding friends, messages, or social interactions because everything feels heavy. You might find yourself scrolling on your phone for too long, eating without hunger, or losing interest in things you normally enjoy. These behavioral shifts are often the clearest signs that something inside you needs attention. Let me give you a small, relatable example. Imagine you're having a busy week. On Monday, you feel a little tired, but you tell yourself it's normal. On Tuesday, you find yourself snapping at a friend for no real reason. On Wednesday, you can't focus on your work, and you keep checking your phone instead. On Thursday, you go to bed early but wake up feeling exhausted. And by Friday, you feel frustrated, confused, or even discouraged. When you look back, you realize the signs were there all week: the irritability, the poor sleep, the lack of focus, the tiredness. But you were too busy to connect the dots. This is how stress grows, quietly and consistently. The problem is that most of us treat these signs as just life, instead of signals that we need to pause. We push through, we tell ourselves to be strong, or we pretend everything is fine because we don't want to disappoint anyone. But ignoring early signs is like ignoring a small leak in a boat. It may not seem serious at first, but if you don't fix it, the boat will slowly fill with water. Stress works the same way. If you don't deal with the early warnings, your energy, motivation, and mental clarity slowly begin to disappear. So I want to invite you to reflect for a moment. Think honestly about yourself and your life. Which signs show up first in your life? Is it the emotional ones, like irritability or overthinking? Is it the physical ones, like tension or tiredness? Or is it the behavioral ones, like procrastination or withdrawing from people? The more aware you become of your personal warning signs, the earlier you can respond and protect your peace. And in the next part of this episode, we'll talk about why we often let these signs grow, even when we know something isn't right, and how we can break that pattern. Why we let stress control us. The real reasons. If stress has so many warning signs, then why do so many of us let it grow until it becomes unmanageable? The truth is, most people don't let stress control them on purpose. It happens slowly, quietly, and often because of the beliefs and habits we carry inside us. In many cases, the real problem isn't just the stress itself, but the mindset behind it. We live in a world where being busy is often seen as normal, and being overwhelmed is almost expected. So, before we even realize it, we start accepting stress as a natural part of daily life, even when it's hurting us. One of the biggest reasons stress controls us is perfectionism. Many of us feel a strong pressure to do everything perfectly, to avoid mistakes, to meet every deadline, to keep everyone happy, and to always look like we know what we're doing. This perfectionism doesn't always look obvious from the outside. Sometimes it hides in small thoughts like, "This isn't good enough," "I should try harder," or "I can't afford to fail." These thoughts push you to work longer, worry more, and demand more from yourself than your energy can handle. And even when you're exhausted, you tell yourself that you just need to try harder. Over time, perfectionism becomes an enemy disguised as motivation. Another major reason is the lack of boundaries. Many people find it extremely difficult to say no. Not because they want to do everything, but because they don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or appear unhelpful. So they say yes to extra tasks at work, yes to social events they don't have energy for, yes to responsibilities that don't belong to them. Every yes may seem small on its own, but together they become heavy. Without boundaries, your time, energy, and attention get pulled in different directions until you feel stretched thin. And when you're used to pleasing others, setting limits can feel uncomfortable, or even selfish. Then there's the fear of disappointing others, which is deeply connected to our need for acceptance. Many of us grew up in families or cultures where being responsible, hardworking, and strong was considered the right way to live. Maybe people around you taught you that resting is lazy, or that your worth comes from how much you can do. Maybe you learned to hide your struggles because other people have it worse, or because you were taught to stay quiet and keep going. Cultural expectations can be powerful, even when they are unhealthy. They make you feel like you must carry everything on your shoulders, even when you are slowly falling apart. Because of these expectations, many people develop common mindsets like, "I should handle everything," "I don't need help," or "I can't say no." These thoughts sound simple, but they have strong effects. They convince you that asking for support is a weakness, or that resting means you're not trying hard enough. They push you to ignore your own needs, to keep working even when you're exhausted, and to continue carrying stress long after your body and mind are asking you to stop. And the more you repeat these thoughts, the more natural they begin to feel, even when they are damaging you. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly, at least to yourself. Have you ever tried to be strong until everything fell apart? Most people have. Maybe you kept saying, "I'm fine," even when you weren't. Maybe you kept pushing yourself because you didn't want anyone to think you were weak. Maybe you stayed quiet because you believed you should solve your problems alone. And maybe, just maybe, you reached a point where the stress became too much, and suddenly everything spilled over at once. This is not a sign of failure. It's a sign that you're human. When we look closely, we see that we don't let stress control us because we are careless. We let it control us because we care too much about our work, our family, our responsibilities, our reputation, and our identity. We want to be reliable. We want to be strong. We want to be someone others can count on. But strength is not about carrying everything alone. Real strength is knowing when to pause, when to rest, when to ask for help, and when to protect your own well-being. Understanding these deeper reasons is the key to breaking the cycle. When you see the beliefs and pressures that drive your stress, you can start changing the way you respond to them. And in the next part of this episode, we'll explore practical ways to do exactly that. Simple but powerful steps that help you take control of your stress before it takes control of you. Practical ways to reduce stress that actually work. When stress becomes a regular part of life, many people look for big, dramatic solutions. They feel like they need a long vacation, a complete lifestyle change, or some perfect routine that fixes everything overnight. But the truth is, stress is usually reduced by small, simple actions that you can do every day. These actions don't need to be complicated or expensive. They just need to be realistic and consistent. When you make small habits a part of your daily life, you slowly teach your mind and body how to relax, recover, and reset. One of the easiest and most powerful methods is controlled breathing. When you're stressed, your breath becomes fast and shallow without you even noticing. This sends signals to your brain that something is wrong, which creates even more stress. So taking 1 or 2 minutes to breathe slowly and deeply can change everything. You can try a simple routine. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 2, and breathe out for 6. This longer exhale tells your mind that you're safe. It's like pressing a reset button inside your body. You can do this anywhere, at work, on the bus, in your room, and it helps you feel calmer almost immediately. Another method that works surprisingly well is walking. Moving your body helps release tension that builds up when you sit for long hours or worry too much. A short walk, even 10 minutes, can clear your mind and improve your mood. You don't need to walk fast or go far. Just step outside, breathe some fresh air, and let your thoughts settle. When you walk, your brain gets a chance to relax and reorganize itself. It's a simple way to give your brain some breathing space, especially when your mind feels full or heavy. Journaling is another powerful but gentle tool. Stress becomes harder to manage when it stays inside your head. Writing helps you organize your thoughts and understand what's really bothering you. You don't need to write long paragraphs or be good at writing. Just put down whatever you're thinking or feeling at that moment. It can be messy, emotional, or confusing. The important thing is that it comes out. Sometimes, when you see your worries on paper, they look smaller and easier to handle. It's like taking your thoughts out of a dark room and bringing them into the light. In today's world, one of the biggest sources of stress is constant digital activity. Messages, notifications, social media, and endless information can overload your mind. Taking short digital breaks can make a huge difference. Try turning off your phone for 15 minutes, or putting it in another room while you rest. You can also set limits on how often you check your messages. Giving your mind a break from screens helps reduce anxiety and improves your focus. You might be surprised by how much calmer you feel when you step away from the digital noise. Another helpful method is time blocking. This means choosing specific times to do specific tasks. Instead of trying to do everything at once, you divide your day into small, manageable sections. For example, you can block 1 hour for studying, 30 minutes for rest, 1 hour for work tasks, and 15 minutes for planning. This approach helps you create structure, and it reduces the feeling of chaos. When you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing at each moment, stress becomes easier to control. Time blocking is not about being perfect. It's about giving your mind direction instead of letting your day shape itself. The most important thing to remember is that stress doesn't disappear by doing something once. It reduces through consistency, not perfection. You don't need to meditate every day for 1 hour. You don't need to write pages and pages in your journal. You don't need to suddenly become a super-organized person. What matters is choosing 1 or 2 small habits and repeating them regularly. Think of them as tiny anchors that keep you steady during stressful times. Even 5 minutes of calm every day is better than 1 hour of calm once a week. Small actions become powerful when they become part of your routine. And once you build these habits into your life, you'll start to notice changes. Better sleep, a clearer mind, less irritability, and more energy. Stress may still appear, but you won't feel controlled by it. You'll have tools that help you manage it with confidence. And in the next part of this episode, we'll talk about the mindset changes that make these habits even more effective, helping you not just reduce stress temporarily, but build long-term emotional strength. Mental shifts for long-term stress reduction. When it comes to reducing stress in the long term, practical techniques are helpful, but mindset changes are essential. You can breathe deeply, take walks, or journal every day. But if your inner beliefs stay the same, stress will eventually return. Real change begins when you start working on the way you think, your expectations, your habits, and the stories you tell yourself. These mental shifts don't happen overnight, but they can transform the way you deal with pressure, responsibilities, and daily life. One of the most important mindset changes is accepting imperfections. Many people carry the belief that everything they do must be flawless. This belief slowly adds more and more weight on their shoulders. When you try to be perfect, you judge yourself harshly for every small mistake, delay, or moment of low energy. But perfection is not realistic, and chasing it constantly keeps your stress level high. Accepting imperfections doesn't mean you stop caring about quality. It means you understand that being human includes making mistakes, learning at your own pace, and doing things well, not perfectly. When you give yourself permission to be imperfect, you remove a huge amount of mental pressure. Another powerful shift is letting go of control. Stress increases when you try to manage everything. How people behave, how situations unfold, what others think of you, and what might happen next. But no one can control everything, and trying to do so only creates frustration and anxiety. Learning to let go is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. It means recognizing what is truly in your hands and what is not. For example, you can control your effort, your attitude, and your actions, but you cannot control the results or other people's reactions. When you stop fighting the things you cannot change, you create space for calm, clarity, and focus. A third mindset shift involves replacing self-doubt with realistic expectations. Stress often grows from the inside, from thoughts like, "I'm not good enough," "I'm too slow," or "I'll never catch up." These thoughts are heavy, and they make every task feel more difficult. Instead of trying to silence these thoughts completely, try to balance them with more realistic statements. Something like, "I'm learning," "This is challenging, but I can handle it," or "I don't need to finish everything today." These small changes in self-talk reduce unnecessary pressure and help you approach challenges with a calmer mind. Along with these shifts, There are small but powerful daily habits that help support long-term balance. One of them is taking micro breaks, short pauses of 1 or 2 minutes to breathe, stretch, or simply reset your mind. These breaks may seem tiny, but they prevent your stress from building up throughout the day. Another key habit is learning to say no politely. You don't need to accept every request or responsibility. Saying something like, "I'd love to help, but I don't have the capacity right now," is respectful and honest. It protects your energy and teaches others to respect your limits. Over time, saying no becomes easier, and your stress levels drop naturally. Another important habit is choosing what truly matters. Not every task deserves the same amount of time or attention. Some responsibilities are essential, while others are simply noise. When you identify what is most meaningful to you, your health, relationships, goals, or personal growth, you begin to focus your energy on what actually makes a difference. This shift brings a sense of direction and reduces the feeling of being lost in a long list of endless tasks. The truth is, mindset change happens quietly. You may not notice it right away, but little by little, you start reacting differently. You become less reactive, less anxious, and more grounded. You learn to pause instead of panic. You learn to choose instead of rush. You learn to protect your peace instead of trying to do everything perfectly. These small mental shifts build emotional resilience, the ability to stay steady even when life becomes stressful. So before we move on, let me invite you to reflect for a moment. What's one belief about stress you want to let go of? Maybe it's the belief that you must always be strong, or that you must please everyone, or that you must never make mistakes. Whatever it is, identifying that belief is the first step toward freedom. And in the next part of this episode, we'll talk about how to maintain these positive changes even during your busiest, toughest days. A short, realistic stress story, anecdote or scenario. Sometimes the best way to understand stress is through a simple, realistic story. So let me share a short scenario about a person named Daniel. He was a friendly and hardworking man in his early 30s, and he always tried to do everything perfectly. At first, Daniel believed he was managing his responsibilities well, but slowly, without noticing, stress began to take over different parts of his life. Every morning, he woke up thinking about unfinished tasks, new deadlines, and the fear of disappointing others. He told himself, "I must do everything right, and I must not make any mistakes." This thought pushed him to work harder, but it also made him feel tired, even before the day began. One day, Daniel reached his office and found a new message from his manager asking him to prepare a report by the end of the day. Normally, this would not be a problem, but Daniel had already planned to work on 2 other tasks. Instead of taking a deep breath and thinking calmly, he immediately felt pressure in his chest. His mind started running fast. If I say no, they will think I'm weak. If I ask for more time, they'll think I'm lazy. His inner voice was full of fear and self-doubt, and he didn't give himself the chance to consider a healthier response. So he said yes, even though he knew it would make his day heavier and more stressful. As the hours passed, Daniel became more frustrated. He rushed through his work, skipped his lunch break, and ignored the small signs that his body was giving him. His back felt tight, his eyes were tired, and his thoughts were not clear anymore. When a colleague came to ask him a simple question, Daniel answered impatiently. Later, he felt guilty for speaking so sharply, but he didn't know how to stop the stress from building inside him. That evening, when he reached home, he was too exhausted to talk to his family. He just wanted silence. His wife noticed something was wrong and asked softly, "Are you okay?" Daniel forced a smile and replied, "I'm fine. Just tired." But he knew he wasn't really fine. A few days later, something small but important happened. During a team meeting, Daniel made a tiny mistake while presenting some numbers. It wasn't serious, but because he was already stressed, he felt embarrassed and disappointed in himself. When the meeting ended, his manager approached him, not to criticize, but to check on him. She said gently, "Daniel, you've been doing great work for a long time. But lately, you look tired and worried. Is everything all right?" This simple sentence surprised him. For the first time in weeks, he felt seen. He paused, took a slow breath, and said, "I think I'm overwhelmed. I try to manage everything alone, and maybe I can't keep doing that." This conversation became a turning point. His manager explained that it's normal to ask for support, to set boundaries, and to take small breaks. She reminded him that strong workers are not the ones who do everything alone, but the ones who know how to manage their energy wisely. Daniel realized he had forgotten something very important. He didn't need to be perfect every day. He didn't need to say yes to everything. And he didn't have to hide his stress. Over the next few weeks, Daniel made small but meaningful changes. He practiced saying, "I can do it, but I need more time," whenever a task was urgent but unrealistic. He started taking 5-minute breaks every 2 hours to clear his mind. He even created a short evening routine where he sat quietly, wrote down his thoughts, and reminded himself of one positive thing he did that day. These small actions didn't remove all his stress, but they helped him feel more in control, calmer, and less afraid of making mistakes. His relationships also improved. He had more patience, and he listened better when talking to people he cared about. Daniel's story shows us that stress doesn't suddenly explode. It grows slowly when we ignore ourselves. But it also shows that small steps can bring big change. You don't need a perfect plan to reduce stress. You just need awareness, honesty, and small actions that protect your mind and energy. And maybe the most important lesson from Daniel is this: asking for help or slowing down is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of wisdom. Now take a moment and reflect. If you were in Daniel's place, what small change would you try first? Common setbacks and how to handle them. When we try to reduce stress and build healthier habits, it is normal to face setbacks. In fact, almost everyone experiences moments when they lose motivation, return to old habits, or feel too busy to continue. These challenges do not mean you are failing. They simply show that you are human. One of the most common obstacles is losing motivation after the first few days. At the beginning, people often feel excited and full of energy. They say, "This time I will change everything." But after a week, when reality becomes heavy again, that excitement starts to fade. You may feel tired, or you may forget your new routine. When this happens, many people criticize themselves and think, "I can't stick to anything. I always give up." But the truth is that motivation naturally goes up and down, and this is completely normal. What matters is how you respond when motivation decreases. You can continue by taking smaller steps, using a lighter approach, or restarting gently instead of judging yourself. Another common setback is returning to old habits, especially when life becomes stressful or busy. For example, you may promise yourself to take regular breaks, to breathe deeply, or to avoid checking your phone constantly. But when pressure increases, your brain automatically chooses the familiar patterns that it knows well, even if those patterns are not healthy. This behavior does not mean you failed. It simply means your brain is taking the easiest route. Instead of feeling disappointed, you can remind yourself that progress is not a straight line. You can pause, notice the habit returning, and choose to begin again. Sometimes saying one simple sentence can help. I fell back, but I can continue from here. This sentence brings compassion and strength at the same time. A busy schedule is another obstacle that makes stress management difficult. Many people say, I don't have time to relax, or I have too much to do. When the schedule is full, it is easy to believe that self-care is a luxury. But the truth is that self-care is a basic need, not something extra. Even in a busy life, small habits can make a difference. A 2-minute breathing exercise can help your mind reset. A short walk can clear your thoughts. Saying no to one unnecessary task can give you more energy for the things that matter. Often, people think that reducing stress requires a big change. But in reality, small actions repeated daily are more powerful and more realistic. Another challenge people face is the feeling of guilt when they try to prioritize themselves. Many individuals think they must always help others first, or they feel selfish for wanting personal time. This belief creates emotional pressure, and it prevents people from taking care of their mental health. But caring for yourself is not selfish. It is responsible. When you have more calmness, more energy, and a clearer mind, you can support others in a more meaningful way. Understanding this truth can help you break the cycle of guilt and allow you to take small steps toward balance. One more setback is perfectionism. Many people believe they must do everything perfectly, or not do it at all. When they miss one day of a habit, they think the whole plan is ruined. When they make one mistake, they feel like starting again is impossible. However, perfectionism is one of the biggest barriers to progress. A more helpful mindset is to accept that small efforts still matter. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to keep going. Even if you take a long break, you can always return to your goal with kindness and patience. During stressful moments, your inner voice may become negative. It may say things like, "You're too slow," "You're not good enough," or "You will never change." This inner dialogue is another setback that stops people from growing. But remember, the story you tell yourself has a strong effect on your actions. If you change the story, you can change your direction. You can speak to yourself the way you would speak to a close friend. You can say, "It's okay to fall behind. What matters is getting back up." This simple shift in attitude gives you emotional space to try again without shame. All of these setbacks are part of real-life growth. They are not signs that you are weak. They are signs that you are human and learning. What truly matters is the ability to come back, even after small or big breaks. Progress is built through gentle restarts, honest reflection, and kind self-talk. So now, take a moment to think about this question. What usually stops you? The task itself, or the story you tell yourself about it? As we come to the end of this episode, I want to take a slow, deep breath with you and gently look back at everything we explored today. Throughout this conversation, we talked about what stress really is, how it shows up in our lives, and the reasons we often let it control us. We looked at the quiet warning signs that many people ignore, and the personal beliefs that make stress stronger. Things like perfectionism, fear of disappointing others, and the pressure to handle everything alone. We also explored simple, practical methods that can help you feel calmer and more grounded. And finally, we talked about the setbacks that almost everyone experiences, and how important it is to be patient with yourself through all of it. These are not just ideas. They are real tools you can use to protect your peace and to build a healthier relationship with stress. Right now, I want to remind you of something important. You don't need to change your entire life to reduce stress. You don't need to take big steps or make huge decisions. Instead, try choosing just one small action that feels realistic for you today. Maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk without your phone. Maybe it's doing a simple breathing exercise before bed. Maybe it's writing down your thoughts instead of keeping them all inside your mind. You might even decide to pause for 30 seconds and stretch your shoulders. These tiny actions may seem small, but they can create real change when you do them consistently. Remember, stress grows when we ignore it, but it reduces when we take even a little bit of intentional care. If you want to improve your English while building a calmer life, you can also use this episode in different ways. You can listen again more slowly, or repeat the parts that spoke to you. You can try shadowing, listening and speaking along with the episode to practice your pronunciation and rhythm. This is a powerful method for building fluency, confidence, and natural speaking patterns. You can also pause at the reflective questions and answer them out loud. When you talk about your own experiences, you learn English and learn about yourself at the same time. That's one of the goals of Code Your English, to help you grow not only as an English learner, but also as a person. Before we close, I want to encourage you to take this message with you into the rest of your day. You deserve peace. Your mind deserves rest. Your body deserves moments of stillness. Stress does not make you weak. It makes you human. But managing stress makes you wise. When you choose even one tiny action to support yourself, you show strength, not weakness. You show maturity. You show that you are ready to take ownership of your well-being. And as you move forward, try to be kind to yourself. If you fall behind, that's okay. If you forget your routine, that's okay. If you have a difficult day, that's okay too. You can always begin again. You can always take one more small step. This is not about perfection. It's about consistency and gentle self-care. Every moment is a new chance to start fresh. So here is my simple call to action. Choose one stress-reducing action today. Just one. It doesn't matter how small it is. Maybe decide it right now, or after you finish listening. And when you do it, say quietly to yourself, I am taking care of my mind. Because you are. And that matters more than you know. Thank you for spending this time with me today on Code Your English. I hope this episode gave you comfort, clarity, and a sense of control. Listen again whenever you need a calm voice or a gentle reminder. Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep choosing peace. And as always, take care of yourself. Your mind deserves peace.